The cover, you see the loss of feathers as I'm falling, and it represents this loss of innocence.
What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button. It's right down, it's free, and it really helps us out. Now, today, for Cover Story, we have the honor and privilege being joined by X-Rated. Thanks for coming through, sir.
Anytime, always, man.
Yes. So X-Rated has a brand new album, A Sin in Heaven. And this album cover for Cover Story, I'm very excited we're talking about it because it's very, very different for a rap album cover, but also I think it's an amazing piece of art. So when I first saw it, I thought was really inspired by the tale of Icarus. So did that play into what it is at all?
It's more, there's an OG painting of Paradise Lost.
Yes.
And it's kind of more hinting in that direction. That's where I was going. As loss of innocence is what it's meant to represent. Almost like being in prison, me coming home was like eating the tree of knowledge. I had all these things that I didn't know and that I couldn't know because I had an imaginary life. I was one of the occupants of Plato's cave, is how I like to put it. And I came home and I learned a lot of things. I was naive, but I didn't know that. And it's true for a lot of people who did extended periods of time incarcerated. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know that you've made up almost everything that you think you know. Going from 17 to mid-40s, incarcerated and coming home and being free. So I think the cover, you see the loss of feathers as I'm falling, and it represents this loss of innocence. It's a loss of innocence. And I think that's me being aware of what the real world was and decisions that I needed to make, real world decisions, not just fantastical or theoretical based. You know how you learn something in the classroom, but then you go and live it, and it's just not the same.
Right.
And I feel like that's what happened to me with my transition from being incarcerated to being free and finding my legs.
And do you feel that with the feathers falling down, was that making it feathers instead of, say, fire or something else? Why do you think the feathers work so well?
I think it worked so well because I think an angel represents this sense of innocence and strength at the same time. And I feel like those feathers instead of fire, it's like a prayer in hell was to be removed from that hell. And a sin in heaven is the outcome of having been removed from that. It's almost like leaving hell to enter paradise and then being discharged. I feel like that's kind of what it was. That's what I was going for.
Okay. And with the feathers falling out and you getting this, the loss of innocence, but also comes with the gain of knowledge.
Indeed.
And with that is a lot of life. There's pros and cons to almost everything. So as you're learning these things and the feathers are falling off and you're rising and falling in life, how do you feel that ties into the sin in heaven, generally speaking?
I think it ties in. I think what I wanted to do is give people the process. And so I think this album represents, it's almost like the stages of grief going through acceptance and final resolution. And the album does that. It takes that journey through anger and defiance into trying to seek a resolution, trying to come to terms with what I was experiencing, a bit of mourning right in the middle, and then a triumphant rise coming out of that mourning, beginning with death and the loss of my Aunt Wanda and life in the birth of Honore. And those two songs, Pray and Conception, serve as the crescendo of the mourning, with the crescendo entering into the rise of coming out of that darkness, really, and being invigorated. And the names of the songs, Sunken Place, Anymore, Pray, Conception, Invigorated. You know what I mean? And that's on purpose. And next thing you get is all or nothing and no conversations, because it ain't nothing to talk about, it's on. So if you think about what happens from that point in the album, it's like I take off into my career. I've embraced the reality of what my real life is, found my center, and took off from there. So All or Nothing happens. I say no conversation. Tech Nine comes on and says it's up. And it's like that's with the beginning of this aspect of my career and my life. And then here comes Crook and Razcast. I kind of saved it. It starts almost like Where I Am, and you have my intro, and you got me and Locksmith, and then it gets into the other stuff. And then it comes, here comes Tech. It's just, I feel like it's perfect.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. Congratulations on that. And with the cover, why did you feel like, for instance, a photograph wasn't going to work for this album in particular?
Well, interestingly, we did take, that's from a photo shoot. That's a real picture. We sent it to OG Frankie from back in the day, Liquid 9. They got a new company now. And, you know, Tech and Trav, I got to give this one, Tech told me about Frankie, but Travis is the one who pushed me to do it because I actually was going to do something more simple. I was like, I told him what my idea was, and I told him all alternate ideas. Okay. And I was like, as the time crunch started happening and I started feeling like this was going to be harder to do. And one of the things that happened is that my son's mother, she was pregnant, and I was working that into it because she was going to be an angel that was picking fruit from the tree of knowledge while pregnant with my real son and my child walking around. And I would have been sitting in the Garden of Eden holding a piece of glowing blue fruit that she had picked for me with it strewn about, and my child playing with the fruit. And we went into labor.
Had to change that plan.
I had to change that up. We went into labor, and she's beautiful, you know, body banging. So even pregnant, it was going to be a beautiful picture. But so here comes Amir. Amir decides he don't want to stay in there no more. So I'm like, all right, I got to pivot. I had 2 or 3 ideas that I really liked, including this one, because I was explaining how it fit, but I was concerned about being able to pull it off. Okay. And Travis was like, nah, man, no way. He said, get what you want. Trust the process. I got you, Frankie. You're paying good money. Get what you want. Do your idea. Take your time, but you only got this much time, but get what you want. I'm like, okay. Go get dressed, jump in the car, drive over to Strange Land, take the picture. The whole thing is set up, you know, real photography. Got to do all these crazy ass poses, like damn near died. We get through that, and I just get home, you know. I got a newborn at the house, days old. I get home, go about my business, man. And Frankie, they came back with it, and it's like, this is how Frankie saw what you described. Because I'm like, he's been casted out, but he's reaching to get back. He's grasping for the innocence. You know, he wants to hold on to this idealistic view of life. That's really what it is. It's almost like the angel fell out of Plato's cave, if that makes sense.
And with that too, the deeper meaning of it all, I think, adds layers to the album, which also then leads into the importance of, as we've talked about before, like, since rap meant so much to us growing up, anything from the cover to the video to everything was so significant to the album itself. So for you, do you feel like this cover in particular is helping maybe start bringing that back a little bit?
I hope so. If people have been paying attention, I've been doing this for quite a while where there's not a lot of graphics on my artwork. I usually have real pictures. Ever since I got the Strange Music, I don't think I have one piece of art that has any fun on it at all. Not one. So you think about every single cover, all of them. The No One Is Safe cover is a shot from the video. Kal-El is me up there in my Fortress of Solitude, standing on that mountain with the Strange chain on. And then Many Apologies is the clock, just the picture of the clock. Sunken Place is just my face with the tears. I've been doing it, so all this art is in my house. And I'm like, I want album covers that literally can be art in my house and never age. That even my children, all of it for 1,000 years.
And was that an explicit goal when you started doing these? Or did it end up happening that way?
That was the goal.
And why?
I think fonts age. When you go back in the history of hip hop, the iconic covers are the ones that are almost all picture heavy.
Yeah.
They're either very, very graphic designed so that it's almost like some Warhol shit, which is cool. You know what I mean? Paid in Full kind of gives me Warhol vibes in a way. Like a real clean picture of Eric B. and Rakim, but the backdrop and everything else. So it didn't age bad. License to Ill didn't age bad. Bad, LL Cool J's Bigger and Deffer didn't age bad. You see that iconic Straight Outta Compton picture with all of them with the guns pointed at the camera, right? It didn't age bad. That Straight Outta Compton font, it got some legs on it, but it should. It's from...
It's an era.
It's an era. It's from that era. What I wanted to do is not be fixed to an era at all. I wanted to transcend era. I want to have clean pieces of art. That Prayer in Heaven, all by itself, can make somebody have a discussion like we're just having.
Right.
You got to go to Milton. You got to go to John Milton. You got to go to Dante. I'm taking a person somewhere else in art.
Classic literature of the highest order, tied to a rap album. But that's the thing, as we've talked about over the years, off the record and stuff. But rap is art. And I'm glad to see like you and other people are starting to do it. I know recently Juicy J did it with his Mental Trillness album. It's actually a painting was the album cover. So I'm glad to see.
Technology Bliss cover.
I'm glad to see more and more people doing it and treating it as such. So we've talked about it a little bit, but specifically and explicitly, as you look back, already the album is brand new, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what's going to be the legacy of a Sin in Heaven cover, do you think?
I hope it inspires people to put a focus on having full packages. I love Kendrick and Drake's beef in the sense that it put the onus back on the lyrics. It put the focus back on the art. I think that plays to my strengths. And I hope that has people's antenna up enough to actually appreciate what I just did. And how many different symbolic things that run through the album, how many Easter eggs I planted all over the place. I think now is a great time for that, and my album, it furthers that agenda of putting the onus back. I think Jay-Z has always kind of been in that lane of wanting to curate something that had artistic legs. I think Kanye has done that. Big Sean has a habit of doing that. J. Cole has very iconic artwork. Kendrick's art is so iconic, he turned a minivan into a statement about himself.
Right.
Just a picture of a minivan was a metaphor for so much more, right?
Right.
And I think that if people are paying attention, they can see it. The Ice Cube's Death Certificate cover, Ice-T's Power cover. Like, what are we talking about? Niggas for Life reaching up out of the dead bodies, 100 miles and running. Like, that classic ass No One Does It Better cover. No one can do it. What is it?
No one can
do it better. King of Kings, Lord of Lords.
Yeah, we just did there's a link to that one. D.O.C. and I just did an episode on that. So definitely watch it if you haven't already.
Yeah, but, that's a moment.
Yeah,
that's a moment in hip hop history. I'm not sure what was on that cover either. If you think about how advanced D.O.C. was.
Oh, the thing about it is he has the red, yellow,
black,
and green.
Yeah.
The color scheme is very significant at the time because that isn't the main thing. And he has he's wearing an African medallion and a king's hat in front of that. So it's there's a lot going on.
There was a lot going on with a picture.
Yeah.
With a picture. Eminem on the porch on the Marshall Mathers LP.
Yeah.
And now he gets to bring that cabin back at least 3 times now. He created his own mythology with a picture.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to do Cover Story, because for people like us that enjoy the art and the levels of the material, I think it really adds depth when you listen to the album. Like when people listen to A Sin in Heaven, if you haven't already, Now, when you listen to it and you look at this album cover, man, it's a lot going on. So
Yeah,
I'm glad
it
we
is,
talked about it, man.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. 2400. I'm from 24th Street. X is the 24th letter in the alphabet. There's 24 songs on the album. The year is 2024. My old junior high school football number was 24. I served 24 years before I knew I was getting out of prison. And that's one of the parts that I hid in there. And that's why the first track is called 2400. 2400 is military time for midnight, the beginning of the morning, the first second of the morning. I am 2400. I'm early. I'm more than on time. I'm early. 2400. You come after X, 0 Dark 30.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. Well, X-Rated, thanks for coming through the cover story, man. Appreciate it as
Absolutely.
always.